Hey guys, Chapadong here, dfsarmy.com, and I'm just going to run through really quickly a little bit of K scores. I'm starting to kind of look at today's slate, play around, and look for strikeout potential. And what I want to show again is how valuable Chop Shop is, the section of the research station that we have here at dfsarmy.com, in finding maybe who has the best upside today. And okay, it's a 15-game slate. We have 30 starting pitchers or openers or whatever taking the mound today. Outliers happen. A guy has a projection of, say, 8 strikeouts today. Well, anything between, say, 5 strikeouts and 12 strikeouts is pretty reasonable. They're not going to hit 12 strikeouts very often. They're usually going to be around, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, that median projection that we talk about. But, and some guy may come out of nowhere off the bottom of the list and have the game of his life. These things happen. And when you're comparing this many people together, you're never going to be too terribly accurate. You're hoping for the goal of being accurate maybe over time, and just kind of sitting there and doing the same thing over and over and over again each night. And, just taking the good with the bad, waiting for those good nights to happen, knowing that they will happen more often with a method like this than they won't happen. So you just don't know when those nights will be. I look at KScore because it levels the playing field for those that haven't seen it or haven't been around for a while. KScore simply adds the strikeout percentage of the pitcher to the strikeout percentage of the opposing team. And what it tends to do is level the playing field. If somebody has a very, very high strikeout percentage as a pitcher, they strike out a lot of batters. It's a lot of their game. If they match up against a team that has a very, very high strikeout percentage against, then they're in a really, really good situation because he's a high strikeout pitcher that's facing a team that tends to strike out. That's a good situation to have. Same with a pitcher that pitches to contact that faces a team that doesn't strike out that much. Well, he's probably going to go under his average number. He's more likely to produce an outlier on the bad side than on the good side, right? So when you're thinking about those things, you can compare any pitcher to any pitcher, and sometimes you find under the radar pitchers with great upside on the night. That's what KScore shows you. And what I wanted to do is I was looking today, people have asked, is it to-handedness in the research station, blah, blah, blah. And I never really knew the answer, but today I don't know why. Today I just looked out of random, and it is to-handedness in the research station. And the way I looked at that, the way I calculate KScore and the way I told the creators of this metric when they came to me and said, hey, we'd like to feature this. How do you do it? And when I explained it to them, I just said, well, I take the K percentage and I add it to the opposite team's, K percentage, and I just remove the decimal point, right? So 29.3 plus 25.1 is kind of the number here. So if I take 29.3 or 293 plus 25.1 or 251, I get a 544, and that's dead on the number. That's what lets me know. I had another one down here, was 29.8, so that's a 298, and slide over here, it was a 1403, so that's a 140. 298 plus 140 is 438. There's his K-score. So essentially, I don't know why I never really looked before, but it's the handedness, and we have both these numbers in the graphic at the same time, and what that shows you is how some of these higher strikeout pitchers may be facing lower strikeout teams, and vice versa. A higher strikeout team may be facing a lower strikeout pitcher, and that vaults his K-score up the list. So somebody like a Taijuan Walker, who only strikes out 23-24% of batters, is 3 to 4% underneath the elite strikeout pitchers on the slate. You've got guys in the 9-10 K per 9 range, and he's only at an 8, almost a 9. So he's a lower strikeout pitcher. Doesn't mean he's super low. He doesn't pitch to contact maybe down here like a Kyle Freeland does, or just have no ability to strike people out, or a John Lester who definitely pitches to contact, right? Maybe not that bad, but that's half of the K-score number. That's going to hurt. Being a contact pitcher is going to hurt his K-score every time out. But sometimes he will face pitchers, or he will face teams that tend to strike out more than other times. And then you might want to target a number like that because you look at him and say, well, he's not typically somebody people look at to strike people out, but he's in a very good strikeout position tonight because the team he's facing tends to swing and miss. So maybe if we catch that upside outlier, then we've got a good tournament pitcher. Or, whatever you can look through these numbers and you can see how these things come together. But what you can see is how this overall metric compares apples to apples across the slate really, really well. And you can see where the high strikeout pitchers are, who might be facing lower strikeout teams, who some of the higher strikeout pitchers are that might be facing, lower strikeout teams, and vice versa, lower strikeout pitchers facing higher strikeout teams, and how that affects the K-score. It may boost it up over what you might think of the matchup, but it may not boost it all the way up tonight to being the best pitcher on the slate. Now, it doesn't mean Dylan Cease is the best pitcher on the slate or Taijuan Walker. It means they're in good strikeout matchups. They still have to go out and perform tonight. They still have to go do their job. If they do and they have an extra good night, they might have an extraordinary score compared to what they usually produce. And you look at that in conjunction with their salaries, because there's no doubt Dylan Cease and Taijuan Walker and Kenta Maeda and Tyler Miley are in plus matchups tonight. So if they're in a plus matchup tonight for strikeouts, they may still get knocked around the ballpark and give up runs and whatnot, but they're in a plus strikeout matchup. If they have that outlier on the up, you would be led to believe that they are in the type of position that leads to an outlier upside night more often than the average night. So, in theory, if they are going to hit, if we ran this particular slate 100 times, and Dylan Cease outperformed his average by, 10% or more, 70 out of the 100 times, you're in a position to say he should have a better night than normal. Therefore, if his pricing did not adjust and that 8,300 salary did not change all that much compared to the matchup he drew today, now all of a sudden he's a value. So we're using the chop shop number of K-score to determine whether these guys are potential values or not on the slate. So if I look through Dylan Cease, Taijuan Walker, these guys are pretty cheap. Now, why on earth would I pay up for a Sean Manaea at $10,000? I don't need to. I've got a 467 K-score. That tells me something's going on tonight. 500 is usually my barrier, but it tells me something is going on tonight on the low side. Either Kenta Maeda is not a very high strikeout pitcher, which is not true. He's towards the top end of the slate. Or he's facing a team that doesn't strike out a lot. Sub 20% when we've got some 25s, 26s, 28s on the slate. That's why his K-score is suffering tonight. So Kenta Maeda is in a position tonight to not strike out as many batters as he might normally do, which slides all the way over here to the K per 9 of a 10.05. I would bet the under on a 10. If the K prop was at a 10, I'd probably bet the under, because more often than not, he should underperform his average because he's in a matchup with a team that doesn't tend to strike out. Of course, he can have a night where he strikes out a bunch of people, but more times than not, he should be under his average. So, therefore, he's overpriced for his potential production. Somebody like a Taijuan Walker at 7,400 at a 523 K-score is good. Something's going on. Taijuan Walker, not the best strikeout pitcher, not the highest K per 9 as we've pointed out, but is in a massive strikeout upside type of position because he's facing a team that strikes out a lot, maybe the most on the slate. So if that's the case, then Taijuan Walker at 7,400 probably is priced too low. He might be a value play. He might be mispriced for the matchup tonight. Now, he might not be. He might go out in the second inning and get hurt and leave the game early and everybody gets upset. But he might very well strike out 9, 10, 11 batters tonight because the team he's facing doesn't hit the ball very well, doesn't, make contact very well. So we don't know what's going to happen on the slate. We never do. We can certainly dig in and we can use indicators like these K-scores that you can only find here at dfsarmy.com, by the way. K percentage, K per 9, opponent's K percentage per handedness or whatever, and you can start looking for opportunities to find those mispriced players that the websites DraftKings and FanDuel did not get correct. Either they did not adjust up or did not adjust down enough to be properly priced. Therefore, they're creating spots for you that are overpriced or underpriced. And in DFS, we focus on the underpriced, because if I went into a grocery store with a $200 budget and a wad of coupons, if I spent my max of $200, I'm coming out with more than $200 worth of groceries. That is value. I'm paying on my $50,000 salary cap or whatever, I'm paying for 200 points of production. But if I can get 300 points of production on that same $50,000 salary cap, I've got a lot of value in my lineup, and I just kicked your ass. That's DFS. These are the concepts we teach at dfsarmy.com day in and day out. You ask the questions, we provide the answers, we show you the tools, we assemble the tools that allow you to do so. And if you're pressed for time, we have cheat sheets that have coaches using these tools and putting the plays together for you and pointing them out. So whatever, you got a lot of time, you don't have much time, you enjoy digging deep into research, you don't enjoy digging deep into research, we've got it all for you. And that's why our helmets are always all over the leaderboards. And that's why we dig in and we teach you how to play. And with NFL coming up, there's no better time than right now to jump in and give us a shot. Preseason, the coupon code preseason, gets you 50% off your first month, and then a 10% discount each and every month after that just locks in forever. That is something you need to jump on. So use the coupon code in the description of the video, preseason, and also use the link down there to come check out our pricing and all that good stuff. And I hope to see you inside our premium Discord channels asking questions and begging for tutorial videos and explanations so that you can become a more lethal daily fantasy player. Peace out, homies. We'll talk to you guys real soon.